Hej och välkomna till Författarscenen här från Malmö stadsbibliotek. Per Bergström heter jag och är producent för scenen. En scen där vi idag hade hoppats att vi skulle ha besök av Bart Moeyaert. Men ni vet alla hur smittoläget är i Sverige. Och i Barts hemland Belgien är ju för närvarande ett av de värst drabbade när det kommer till covid i Europa. Så vi har med oss på scenen här i Malmö Johanna Koljonen, och Bart är faktiskt också med från sitt hem i Belgien och kommer på det sättet också finnas med på scenen hos oss. Bart Moeyaert är en av världens mest översatta och lästa barn- och ungdomsboksförfattare. Till svenska finns han i den genren bland annat översatt med Alla är ledsna nu för tiden, Kärleken vi inte förstår och nyss utkomna novellsamlingen Bröder. Förra året belönades han dessutom med Alma-priset till Astrid Lindgrens minne för sitt författarskap i den genren. Men sedan han debuterade som 19-åring 1983 har han gett ut över 50 böcker i vitt olika genrer. Essäer, han har skrivit tv-manus, dramatik, 3 diktsamlingar och nu är han aktuell på svenska med sin första roman som vänder sig främst till en vuxen läsekrets, Graz. En vacker, kort liten roman om apotekaren Hermann Eichler i Graz. En bok om ensamhet och om att finna sig själv. Jag hoppas nu att vi kommer lyckas finna Bart i de här digitala irrgångarna så att han kan ta plats bredvid Johanna Koljonen här i Malmö. Varmt välkomna.
All right. Hello, Bart from Malmö.
Hi, Johanna. What a beautiful language do you have.
Swedish it's wonderful. I think your language is so beautiful, and it is. I think we were talking about it before that because you haven't been translated enough into Swedish, we may have to learn Flemish instead.
Okay, and I will learn Swedish, promise.
Then we can make it our Corona project. We still probably have another year to go. Congratulations so much on this new novel. Graz is of course a jewel of a city, and this is a jewel of a novel. Could you tell us at the very beginning, what was the impetus or the beginning for this novel project? How did it start?
I was invited to Graz to give lectures for 1 week, and I was not really happy because if you want to travel to Graz from Belgium, you have to travel for a long time. And I was always saying, why do I do this? But I arrive at the city, at the airport, and immediately I fell sort of in love, as it is a small city, but in the same way it is a big city in the sense of they have a beautiful museum. They have, well, it's a nice city. And I have a room in a very old-fashioned hotel. And what I like is when things are ugly, but beautiful at the same time. And that was an ugly hotel and beautiful at the same time. And I get a room for one person, too small. And I enter the room and I say, no, I will not stay for 1 week in this room. I want another room, I will pay more, no problem. And I get a room at the other side of the hotel with the view on a pharmacy. And there, to me, it started because I could see the people entering. I could see the pharmacists on the first floor. Well, and I have to admit, I looked a lot to what was happening there. At the same time, I was on my own. I could have these long walks and think. And I sit down in a very noisy cafe, somewhere in a corner, and I take my notebook, the notebook that I always have. And I started to write the start of Graz, but I didn't know I was starting a novel. I was just writing about this Hermann Eichler. He wasn't called Eichler at that moment, Hermann. And there it started as I was thinking about my own life, about what I did to please my father and so on. But when I tell you this now, I can't say back then at that cafe that I was busy with those facts, but somewhere they were inside of me. To give you another strange example, there are things that Herman is thinking suddenly, but they come from my best friend, a girlfriend, who called me at night in the hotel, crying because her friend broke up. And we had a very long talk, I don't know how long. We were talking about life and about love and how difficult things were. And sentences that I said to her or she said to me entered the novel. So when I read Graz now, it is the story about Herman, but it is the story, no, not about me, but about things I was busy with.
So in this novel, Herman, this relatively young man, he has inherited a pharmacy from his father and his grandfather before that, and he lives a very staid, very controlled life. And then he becomes witness to a traffic accident in his street, and it shakes him loose. It rattles him so much that he becomes able to think about himself differently also. It sounds very simple when I say it like that, because basically that's the novel. But of course, it's very rich, like you just described. What would you say it's about?
I heard that Per said loneliness. Yeah. And I think it's about the basis of being lonely, not being able to communicate in the way people expect you, because we have rules about communication. We have to chit-chat. And after 3 weeks and maybe 3 years, maybe we can enter more in the deeper surface, so to speak. It's about loneliness, but it's about, how do you say it in English? Expectations. Mm-hmm. When your father or other people expect something from you, you want to please, so you will do it because you want to please. And how wrong that can be. Because if you say yes because of expectations, sometimes suddenly you do things that you in fact don't want to do. And it happens in relationships, it happens in family constellations. So, you know.
Yeah. I'm startled to realize, I only realized today that I can't say when this novel is set. And I started to think, are there mobile phones in it? I don't think so. And then because of the nature of that city, and perhaps also Austrian culture, and perhaps also the conservatism in a way of his family, it could be in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I can't quite say. Did I miss something in the book, or do you not tell us when it is?
Yeah, no, you're a very good reader, Johanna. It's about me, in fact. I can't say that there are, I think, no novels of mine, no stories of mine where you can really indicate it's 1990 or 2010 or whatever. I like when stories are everywhere and at any time. And it's not something I do sitting at my desk and thinking, no, my mobile phones today. It's about that, what I say, everywhere, anytime.
Part of it, of this change that is happening inside Herman is also, of course, about his relationship to his own sexuality, or really to desire. Perhaps he is a person who hasn't allowed himself to desire anything ever, and then he starts to desire change and people as well. And there's a homosexual theme. He is walking the city. That's actually really what is happening in most of the book. Is he is walking around Graz. But of course, walking in these urban spaces in male gay culture is also about cruising. So there is also a transition in a way when he allows himself to go from walking to cruising in some sense.
Yeah, he's walking in his mind, he's walking in his past, he's walking in his thoughts. Again, because before you think that this story is far too personal because it's about me, it's in fact, of course, about things that I have done myself. When I was 19, I'm not bothered to tell you, I'm the seventh of 7 brothers, the youngest. And my parents were Catholic and raising us in a very good way, but the example was clear. You marry, you get 2 children, haha, and you get a car and a house, and then you're happy. My mother was happy because she saw that every brother left the house at the right moment and with the good girlfriend. So they expected me to do that too. But if there is no example around you, there is no, well, the one homosexual is on Dutch television, is a television presenter, he's older and people say about him that he's gay. So that's my example when I was 12, when I was 18, 19. The fact is that if you don't have that example, you think it's far away. It's not your life. It's not something you do. When I started to study in Brussels, which is not Graz, but which is a small, big city, I experienced things that I didn't know. So the whole subject, gay or homosexuality, entered by meeting people, really going through a park at night and a man talks to you and he says, we have to be happy, we have to talk to each other. And I was thinking, what a strange thing to say in a park late in the evening. So I was very naive, but that was the way I started to live and to decide things. And the same thing happens with Herman, who is to me 38, 40, something like that. Not because, but I think people make decisions at a very, very, at an older age, which is very sad and which is heartbreaking, in fact.
Yeah. I really like how you write about desire and about sex in this novel. Now it sounds like it's a very big part of the novel. Thematically, it's important. It's just a few short scenes. But I couldn't quite put my finger on why it felt so different. But do you have thoughts about how sex is described in our culture today, and what you are doing that is maybe not like that?
Oh, what I'm doing is I teach in an art school, and I do this for 20 years already. And I give my students, 10 students, so to speak, a task. They have to write something about something. I make it playful. And in the 3rd year, there's a student, and she says, no, I will not do what you say. I will give myself a task. I will write a sex scene between 2 girls, and we'll do it for next week. And they say, oh, I really want to read this. How you will make it more difficult for yourself than the thing that I wanted to let you do. And she wrote a part of a scene. She admitted the week after that it was far too difficult, because if you use the word, it starts to be porn or filth or disgusting, I would say. And there I thought, how good that she explains herself, how difficult it is, because I experienced it myself several times. I have written one erotic story, who is called that's the title, and it's about a farmer's girl and the boy that looks after the horses, and the boy who looks after the horses enters the room, and she's in the kitchen, and it's far too hot outside. The windows are open. And it's such a delight to write erotism or attraction, physical attraction between people without using the words, because that's the way it works in your mind too. It's not because you use one very clear word that it sets a whole fantasy in your mind. Language can bring fantasies alive.
Yes. Now, in this novel, in Graz, between the chapters, you are using these very short quotes from writers, and of course it becomes, you know, to people who like books, it becomes almost like a game. So I thought I had to write them down. I noticed Evelyn Waugh, Virginia Woolf, E.M. Forster, and Christian Isherwood. They all broadly sort of connect to the Bloomsbury Group, but also Edward Albee, the playwright, and James Baldwin. And then I had to cheat with the internet. Montague Slater, I think, from the libretto for Peter Grimes. And we're all there around the 40s, and these are writers, or well, Sam Baldwin, of course, a little bit later, but some of these are writers. I was thinking, what do they have in common? And I felt maybe these are writers who are very comfortable around the queer, and who are pushing against respectability, who are saying that we cannot be controlled by ideas of the respectable. And in this novel, we feel like, that's funny, because Herman says early on that he doesn't read books, and by the end we realize perhaps he has read, in fact, perhaps he has read these exact books, and that has opened the world for him. So all of these, you're pressing these little buttons for a lot of words that are not said, but perhaps become quite important for the main character. Why these authors, and why these quotes?
If you, Johanna, would work in Malmö at the English bookshop, and your name was Carla, like the best friend of Herman Eichler in Graz, you would help me. I'm the pharmacist. I'm 40, let's say, by talking to me. We know each other already, let's say, 6 years. And our talk started about the weather and about being in Graz, and you about working at the English bookshop. And you would suggest or give me books, and I would say, oh, will not read, or I would start to read, and maybe you would help me without saying so. You would offer me books. And it was my trick to let Carla, who is the best friend of Herman, enter the story more. So these titles are even not titles, but intermezzi, one little line that would let you think, is this meaningful? And like you say, you gave it a meaning, and it's the meaning I want, because it's true what you say. They are comfortable with homosexuality. They are one group. You can think that Carla has a certain taste, and you can sense that she's working at the English bookshop.
Is it also your taste? I think I noticed somewhere that you like the Bloomsbury Group as well.
Yes, yeah. But it's something from my 20s. Like I said before, I was searching for direction. And when I was 19, 20, all the direction came to me at that moment. Through James Baldwin, through Virginia Woolf. And it was a way of living that I was looking for. And like the Bloomsbury Group and their thoughts about sexuality and about life suited me well. suited me. Yeah, it suited me, but it made me afraid too, because I didn't know. But what you don't know, or that's exciting.
I also read Virginia Woolf. I mean, I still do, and I went on to study English literature. But when I came across her when I was 19, 20, I felt I had this idea, as many writing young people have, maybe I will be a novelist. And I read Virginia Woolf, and I felt, oh, I will never be a novelist, because here it is, it's done. You know, I read her and I felt everything. I can't add anything to this. She's figured it out. I will do something else. But so what is it that you had the opposite effect for you? This language pulled you in, and it liberated something in you as a writer.
Yeah, at that time I changed publishing houses. I went to Querido in Amsterdam, and my very best friend was my editor, and he invited me to parties, dinners with a lot of people, the translators, the big names of literature in the Netherlands and Belgium, Flanders. And there I was. My first novel was published already when I was 19. But there I was, far too young for these people, far too naive, and I was discovering it all. And then it's wonderful that it happened back then for years, because I was learning in a fast way. But it's a pity too, because at that moment, the world was too big for me. If people asked me, it seems that you knew Frans Kellendonk, it seems that you knew Jenny Tuin, who is a writer and a translator. They said, yes, can you talk more about what were you talking back then? I remember that I was sitting on a stool and smiling and listening and soaking like a sponge, so to speak. But the details, I can't remember. But to return to your question, your remark, for me, it's the other way. It worked the other way around. I want to learn, be better, grow, all these words that you use to make an evolution. Yeah.
Do you think that that environment, and perhaps also the books that you were reading, what kind of idea did they teach you about the role of being an artist or a writer in society?
Be brave, be stubborn. Stubborn is not a good word, but it is. Because I learned from when I was very young. Back then I was working for a magazine because I had to earn money. And when I was 26, 27, I was fired. Not because I didn't do work well, but the magazine stopped to exist. And the CEO of the company called me and said to me, you will be grateful to me. And I thought, what a stupid remark that I will be grateful to you because you fire me. But 1.5 years later, I realized that he was right, because he sent me away to be a writer. And I took, I think, 6 months to decide I will be a writer. This is my life. This is my firm, my shop. This is the thing that I have to take care for. And if you think that way about your own writing, about literature, you, of course, you care for it, but you will look after it in a way that you will not enter, you will not touch my literature, it's mine, which is a good way to work with what's inside of you, what you write. In another way, it's not good at all, because I'm a perfectionist. I was a perfectionist, I have to say. Because, yeah, you have to be better and better than best. And it's not about ambition, but about, if I'm not good with words in real life, I have to write in the best of way on paper, that people really will see or understand what I do.
Do you write to change people or to describe what's already there?
No, I don't write to change people. I write poetry, and for a very long time I was telling people that language didn't change anyone. It was printed on paper, put between cardboard, and it was a book, and a book is lifeless and will not change anyone. I repeated that for a long time. Suddenly I realized that it is a way to be safe, to not let people enter. I became to be a poet of the city of Antwerp, which is a large harbor in Belgium. And I was poet of the city for 2 years. And I wrote, because you do that when you are poet of the city, 14 poems about city life, being a foreigner in the city, because I was a foreigner in Antwerp. And then it started to happen. People reacted on my poems because they are outside, or you can read them in a paper or whatever. People reacted in a positive way. Thank you for comforting me in this difficult time. Thank you for letting me think twice. But negative too, because people talk to me in the street or in the supermarket. You think you just write, never write white and black. You're always about gray. What? Be brave. And there I learned how language or literature can change someone. But until now, it's not my aim. Not my aim, because if it would be my aim, I would be far too, I would know that I exist, and I would know maybe I can change Johanna if I write this or that. No, that's not the way. What I have to do is not lie, write what I want to, what I have to. And if I'm the first reader of my own story, maybe, let's hope, there's a second one. And maybe that's you.
I love that. We are out of time, but I have to ask you two small questions at the end. One is, that pharmacist in Graz, does he know about this novel?
Yes. I was in Graz 4 times, yes. And the last time I entered the pharmacy, and I had the book in German with me in a gift paper, because I wanted to offer it to him. And he put out his hand and he said, yes, I know. Because he knew, in fact, that there was a book about him. We talked about it, and he said, I'm grateful and I'm happy. It's not about me, but I'm happy.
That's wonderful. And the second, of course, since we are in Sweden, I would be amiss to not ask you about Astrid Lindgren. You can answer either what does the writing of Astrid Lindgren mean to you, or perhaps what the award means to you if you didn't have a strong relationship to her before.
I had a strong relationship. When you talk about the Bloomsbury Group or James Baldwin, these authors have formed me in a way. And I have to say it, that Astrid Lindgren formed me too. When I was 7 or 8, I started to read Lindgren. When I was 19 and had my first book published, I saw that other writers have ideas about writing. So I showed the autobiography of Lindgren when I gave lectures. Mm-hmm. And people said, oh, he's thinking about literature too. But when I received the award, suddenly, and that's so strange and it comes so late, suddenly I realized she has always been there, my third grandmother, so to speak. And the beautiful thing, what moved me a lot was that when the jury was talking about the award and why I got the award, that Astrid Lindgren chose the outsider, the loner, that I do it in the same way without thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Thank you ever so much, Bart Moeyaert, for joining us here in Malmö in this strange year.
Thank you, Johanna. You're welcome.
Thank you for the book.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care.